What's up folks, I'm Private Hudson and this is The Only Traitor, a 2.5 hour long DLC for the final station. Right off the bat, I have to say that this DLC is vastly superior to the original game. Here you play as Peter, and unlike the train conductor, Peter actually talks. The awful train passenger managing minigame has been scrapped. Actually, the entire train driving element has been removed completely. Here you drive a muscle car instead. It has room for only one additional passenger, so instead of driving around rescuing people, you decide who gets to go along with you. As you travel from location to location, you do come across other people, and you can take aboard a new passenger while abandoning your current one. And finally, combat has been improved as well. Melee combat is better, as you now have a baseball bat and no longer punch zombies to death. There's also new enemies, a zombie that continues to crawl after you after getting downed, a ranged acid-spitting zombie, a raging zombie, and finally there are human enemies as well. Now with the overview out of the way, let's focus on the details. The Only Traitor starts out in an apartment building where Peter is devising a plan to drive away to a shelter. All of the other residents are dead, with the exception of your neighbor Harry, and there's some weird cult that was occupying the top floor of the building, and they seem to have disappeared. You search the building for food, water, and gas, and you and Harry drive off. Just by having a protagonist who actually talks improves the experience greatly. Peter comes off as a bit of a selfish asshole and cares only about his own self-preservation. Since the world is ending, it's kind of understandable. The fact that he's the only one with a functioning car gives him great bargaining power over all the other survivors that he meets, and they basically need to prove their worth in order for him to take them along. Each survivor that you come across has different stats. You no longer craft stuff since you're busy driving, so you depend on your passenger to do the crafting for you. The higher their crafting stat is, the less materials they require to craft a medkit or ammunition. Also, health is no longer restored between levels automatically, so there's a bit of an added challenge, but your passenger can heal you a little bit during the driving sequences. The last stat that the survivors have is Sociability, which represents how much knowledge they have regarding current events and how long your conversations will be during the driving sequences. Since you can only have one survivor with you, this gives the DLC quite a bit of replay value, as you need to finish the game with each one in order to hear their full story, and there are 11 different survivors. With the stupid train minigame gone, and with the addition of a talking protagonist, you can actually follow the story, unlike the base game. I know I'm repeating myself, but this in itself is just a huge improvement. One thing that I do have to comment on regarding your companions is that there's no penalty or any negative reaction when you decide to swap out a passenger. The current one just disappears. I feel like this was a missed opportunity. They could have added some morality here or some dialogue or anything really. I mean, if I was on my way in a car to a shelter and all of a sudden I get kicked out for someone else, I'd be pretty pissed off and I'd sure as hell have something to say, but here, nope, nothing happens. Old passenger disappears, new one appears in your car, and it's as if nothing happened. It's pretty lame, but it's honestly my only complaint regarding this DLC. Level design has been improved as well. It no longer feels like a Sonic the Hedgehog game where you simply keep walking right until you come across an unblock code to unblock your train. The levels are larger, and there are places to explore in both directions. You're always looking for food, water, and gas, which is realistic and makes sense to stop in these towns and other places. Speaking of which, some of the areas you come across are from the original game. Chronologically, this DLC takes place at just about the same time, so it's interesting to see how quickly things have changed after the train conductor left the area. Some of the survivors that you meet are from the base game too. Finally, regarding the story, there's not much I can talk about, seeing as how both the game and the DLC are on the very short side. I will say that the DLC does go further into the backstory and explains things in greater detail. It doesn't answer everything though, and many things remain a mystery. Overall, like I said, this DLC is better than the actual game. It's kind of strange for me to not like a game, but actually prefer its DLC over it. I can't really think of any other title where I felt this way. It's very cheap too. It's only $5, so if you already own the final station, whether you liked it or not, I will say that this DLC is definitely worth picking up and playing through at least once. The ending alone is worth it.